Another car rental company has dumped Tesla, citing sky-high depreciation and exorbitant running costs, i.e. Teslas bleed like stuck pigs at both ends of the deal, dude, which is never a good look. And in other news, when he found out yet another rental giant was divorcing the cult, Electric Jesus was seen crying in the bed of his new high-performance, horizontal, bulletproof cyber urinal. Looking on the bright side of all of this momentarily, at least it's not gonna rust. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au, Newcastle cheap, Australia only website. Card. So, in today's award-winning and barely homoerotic automotive investigative report, in addition to SIXT, or SIXT, however you pronounce that, like, I don't know, tomato, in addition to them dumping Tesla, we've got what I like to think of as Fishwick's first truly hardcore, that's not funny, accessories for the new Tesla cyber urinal. And these are awesome. Like, talk about pandering to the textbook rich overcompensator. Plus, Tesla's crackpot claims on the Australian website about the cyber urinal's capabilities on other planets. I know, I couldn't make that up either. And finally, there'll be some feedback from you, which is always the stuff of which trouser teepees are made, speaking personally and wholly platonically, except, of course, as per usual, if you are a cheerleader's mommy. This report is sponsored by NordVPN. Get 4 extra months of Nord free now at nordvpn.com/AEJC. Say you're in a cafe one day and you think you've just connected to the free Wi-Fi. But in fact, a hacker has just inserted himself between you and the internet and he's about to start ripping you off properly. How would you even know? This is called a man-in-the-middle attack. It's one of the most common ways to get hacked. But there's no law that says you have to be the next victim. You need countermeasures, and that's what NordVPN does. NordVPN does the stuff that you and I don't understand in the background. Encrypting your data, hiding your IP address, locking everything down, basically. Go to nordvpn.com/AEJC now. The 2-year plan discount is huge right now. Plus, you're going to get 4 extra months free. nordvpn.com/AEJC. Link in the description. Just subscribe, download the app and connect. 1 click later, your IP address is shielded, your online traffic is masked with NSA-level encryption across as many as 6 of your devices. NordVPN is the fastest VPN on the planet. It costs only about as much as 1 cup of coffee every month to keep your data, your identity, and your devices secure. Because your location is masked, you'll be able to access streaming and other services that might be blocked where you live. Plus, you can continue to watch your favourite content when you travel. You might even be able to score some great deals on travel and accommodation that are not available at home. That happens all the time. Go to nordvpn.com/AEJC now, boost your security and enjoy that discount plus those extra 4 months of free subscription time. It's totally risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/AEJC, link in the description, and thanks to Nord for sponsoring this episode. Okay, so Hertz dumped Tesla recently, which was kind of funny, especially after making such a bullshit song and dance about their grand electric Scientology membership application and future plans. Like, it was the biggest single mooted acquisition of Tesla's ever, and Tesla's valuation went up to $1 trillion, which was stiffies all around, basically, for investors and insiders. And then a short time later, reality bit Tesla on the buttocks. They called the whole thing off publicly, and they fessed up about the financial disaster that owning Teslas en masse has proved to be. And now the ridiculously named SIXT rental company has validated Hertz's position and followed suit. How many more companies will do this? Let's wait and see. SIXT told anyone in search of the miracle cure for insomnia, which has eluded medical researchers for decades now, that EVs generally, and especially anything touched by the, let's call it, the wand of electric Jesus, was just too expensive up front and worth too little at the end of the ownership term, and it cost too damn much to keep on the road in between those overblown fiscal endpoints. But apart from that, dude, owning a Tesla is awesome. These costs have come under further pressure due to discount campaigns by some manufacturers, particularly clearly in the case of Tesla. Overall, this leads to significantly higher holding costs for Tesla vehicles, which we must take into account in our fleet decisions. Now, this is why I always say that politeness is everything, especially in emotionally charged situations. And that, I would argue, is exactly how you apply for excommunication from a cult. You do it respectfully and you give your reasons. You base your actions on the justification. And in this way, you can walk out of Electric Waco with your dome held high, glinting in the midday sun. That's how you'd want to do it. That was the salient excerpt from SIXT's excommunication application right there. That's hard to say. SIXT's excommunication application. You give it a try, dude, on the day that you've taken up glue sniffing again. It's not the first time that SIXT has faced disaster, incidentally. The company was founded by Martin SIXT in 1912, I think it was, in Bavaria. The Germans inconveniently seized the SIXT fleet, not the Sixth Fleet, but the SIXT fleet, in World War I, and again, those recidivist bastards, they did it in World War II, like clockwork. Most people don't know that. When the war ended, SIXT said, "F you, fleet confiscating recidivist mother lovers." They didn't say it in those words, obviously, they spoke German. And they established a taxi service for Americans stationed in Germany before fitting the taxis with the latest high-tech advance in 1951. Can you guess what that was? Radios. Imagine that, dude, radios. Imagine being able to talk to another person remotely over the horizon without being encumbered by wires. Amazing. I find this whole story quite confronting because SIXT and 60, Jesus. Being 60. Like, fuck, dude, how did that happen? To paraphrase renowned gun-toting podunk philosopher Kid Rock on this, well, I guess I'm 60. Getting old really sucks. Strippers used to kiss me. Nowadays it costs $50. And that's not even a high-class one, dude. Just a median stripper out of a fairly low-rent cake at the Marriott. Kid Rock would go on and say, well, I guess I'm 60. And as I stare down 61, I get a million crazy stories and can't remember one. It's very confronting, dude. Like, I'm sure it's all sung in jest, but from where I sit, you look in the mirror and you see your dad staring back at you every morning. And at 18, I swore I would never turn into him. And incongruously, here we are. In other news now, Unplugged Performance has out-ARB'd the excellent corporate welfare cheats at ARB, but not at welfare cheating. No reference to individuals is made. I'm just talking about welfare cheating in the aftermath of the pandemic in Australia as a corporate collective scumbaggery concept. Anyway, Unplugged Whatever has done this by revealing a host of tasty and high-priced add-ons for Tesla's exciting new groundbreaking cyber urinal. It's very difficult to make something like that look both more butch and more ridiculous at the same time. But they have managed it. Imagine a vehicle kitted out like that, rolling Rodeo Drive with some redneck rock star right there, deep in the bulletproof trough. Perhaps audaciously, I might make one small additional suggestion just to complete the look. The Black Mandala, dude, it's crying out from it. You can procure this from skullbliss.com. It's not that expensive. It's a sustainably sourced, hand-carved, longhorn cyberpunk skull with horns. Yes! Who doesn't want a dozen of those? I know I do. Sustainably sourced, like, except for the beast, obviously, whom I'm sure felt that its contribution was both unsustainable and overall a bit of a rip-off. Still, it is the perfect hood ornament to personalise one's high-performance plug-in urinal, I'd suggest. Beautiful workmanship. Like, the skull is roughly 8 inches or 20 centimetres across, and each horn is like 25 to 30 inches. What's that? Like, in the ballpark of 70 centimetres. So the whole ornament is like 1.6 metres wide. Imagine that. Something of a statement. Nothing screams boss hogs in town quite like a dirty big set of horns on the hood. Kindly do allow me to detain you ever so briefly longer, down here, deep in the sewer, the better to discuss the cyber urinal in more fascinating detail. Because there's an excellent declaration on Tesla's Shitsvillian website today. Quote, built for any planet. Any planet. Yes. As a future Prime Minister of this great nation, I take this kind of thing quite seriously because I'm all about making Australia less shit. And therefore, I have made a deep commitment never to visit another planet in my official capacity without first bringing along a fine and fully functional terrestrial urinal. And Tesla's cyber urinal is the best, dude, the best. We've done all of the tests. It's safe and effective. This also sums up Tesla's underlying predatory conduct fairly well, in my estimation. They're always seeking to capture the attention of and inspire the wealthy idiot, using falsehood so damn creatively. So I've got a brief solar system pro tip, which may be of use to misleading, deceptive assholes everywhere in the universe. The two most hospitable planets in our solar system, that aren't Earth, obviously, are our next-door neighbours, Venus and Mars, hotter and cooler, respectively. I fear, however, that even these comparatively mild neighbours of ours would be more than a match for the new plug-in cyber urinal. The minimum surface temperature on Mars is minus 153 degrees C last time I looked, which is about 43 degrees warmer than liquid nitrogen. But that makes it still pretty fucking cold, dude. And the atmospheric pressure is like 0.6% of one atmosphere, like of the one atmosphere that we experience here on Earth. I'm not seeing the cyber urinal tolerating these conditions all that well. Like, not at all. Perhaps we'd do better on Venus, but I don't think so. Venus is, of course, about 460-something degrees C and 90-something atmospheres of pressure. And I'm pretty sure both of those would also stop the cyber urinal in its tracks fairly promptly. And these are the two next most hospitable planets in our neck of the woods. And yet, Despite facts of this nature, people lap up Tesla's bullshit as if it were true. I love how Musk gets under John's skin. We'll bust a blood vessel soon. Hiss, living in John's head rent-free. I fear hiss wrong about this because I love Elon Musk deeply, passionately, but platonically. He's a fascinating guy. The world is more colourful with Elon Musk in it. And let's not forget that in the great book, Electric Jesus has written so many of my jokes. This guy's probably never even driven a EV. I will never go back to farting cars. For me, the Model 3 is one of the greatest cars ever made, and I can't wait to get a Cybertruck and leave other farting gas guzzler pickup trucks in the dust while towing thousands of pounds. Hilarious. Leaving to one side the concept of farting an actual car, which did seem potentially uncomfortable, like even a toy car could be hard to pass in this way, except perhaps for Hugh Janus. So I replied fairly diplomatically to this initial reach out, and I said, dude, I've driven about 20 EVs and I lived with one for a year. This was effort that I could have devoted to something far more productive ultimately. Auto expert JC, and yet you still cannot see something incredible taking place in the cyber urinal. I can actually see that, and it is incredible. Amazing is probably an equally good word. I think Engadget summed all of this up best when they called Tesla's rolling urinal a, quote, dystopian masturbatory fantasy. Hashtag respect for being brave enough to call this out as the drain on personal lubricant worldwide that it almost certainly is. Janus Electric, how are the batteries cooled or heated? Does Hugh J have something to say? This is an excellent point, actually. It concerns the recent electric truck fire in Melbourne, and I'll put a link up there somewhere so you can watch the video, if only to crack the code, interestingly, on Hugh Janus. Right at the very end. This is what everybody is laughing about behind their hands, and you'll be in on the joke, dude. Everyone wants that. These batteries, okay, retrofitted to these trucks, these electric trucks, they're conversions from diesel to electric by a company called J. Anus. And they do make a big song and dance about the fact that the batteries are swappable. You can swap them in 4 minutes, allegedly. And I get the benefit here. It's huge. Truck's not going to sit around for ages on the charger. Fantastic. But on balance, I'd argue that this design decision seems like a bad one to me because batteries this big need a substantial and highly robust cooling system. And frankly, a liquid cooling system is going to perform the best. They always do because physics. But at the same time, a liquid cooling system is going to greatly increase the complexity of swapping the batteries. So you would have to forget all about this process being a sort of 4-minute battery meal deal. And that is one of the unique selling propositions, presumably that J. Anus does not want to throw under the bus. Therefore, the batteries here are most likely air-cooled, and this is not as effective. And I'd suggest that it would need to be forced convection to do the job, to jam enough air through the battery. It's probably going to be fan forced. But hey, it does make swapping the batteries simpler. I think what we saw in Melbourne on November the 28th was a failure of the cooling system, or a cooling system related failure, like maybe inadequate design off the bat for rejecting sufficient amounts of waste heat, or a fan failure, ducting failure, or some other battery management related failure, which would mean basically that the J. Anus cement Shitsville truck hauled its heavy load and climbed all the way up the Westgate Bridge, causing the battery to discharge fast and hard, and therefore getting hot. The cooling system fails, the battery overheats, and then just a few minutes later, rolling much closer to the city, it enters catastrophic thermal runaway and poops toxic hazmat shit all over ambient Melbourne society and gets on the news. And hilariously, in a black way, this is all taxpayer funded, so yay. Electric utopia, here we come. More evidence that we're not doing this the smartest possible way. Far from it. Like, who needs New Year's Eve fireworks when you've got 5 more of these cement convoy crematoria just rolling around in public, treating us like rats in a mad electrification lab? If you see this kind of full-on emergency services response between now and, I don't know, the dark of the moon on the 6th of friggin' June, take a breath and head way upwind. Make it a deep one, dude.